Hello, people. How are we doing? Welcome to another episode of Grand Football TV. Now the Premier League is finished. Wow. So what do we do with ourselves? Well, we're waiting for the Euros, aren't we? And the Copa America. That's what's next before the start of the new season. So this episode, we are going to look at the Premier League teams and those who have finished as the players of the season in each team. We're quickly going to run through that. Some of them, please note that some of them have just been what has been posted. It might not be the official player of the season who has been mentioned, but this is what's based on our research. This is what we found, so we've gone with that so we can bring to you, what has been said. So yeah, we'll start them alphabetically, not by how they finished in the Premier League, otherwise we'll be starting with Man City, but we'll go alphabetically from A to Z, and then we'll tell you all the players in each team who has emerged the player of the season. So, the first team we'll be looking at is AFC Bournemouth. AFC Bournemouth. And I'm sure there will be no surprises there when you know who's the player of the season. It is Dominic Solanke. Dominic Solanke. He's had a very, very good season. Everyone must agree with that. He scored quite a lot of goals, and in fact, this must have been his best season in the Premier League, I must say. I think this definitely must have been his best season. This season just gone. Yeah, so Dominic Solanke is the player for AFC Bournemouth. And the player for Arsenal. Who do you think, guys? There's a lot of speculations about who the player should be, but based on our research, Declan Rice is the player of the season. He's coming with that big money transfer, and he's lived up to that name. He hasn't, put a foot wrong, let's put it that way. And almost every game, 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. So, in my opinion, well deserved. Although you might say about some other players, but in my opinion, he's the one that should be the player of the season. So, congratulations to Declan Rice. And the next team we'll look at is Aston Villa. There'll be no surprises there as well. Ollie Watkins is the player of the season. Ollie Watkins. Another good season. I mean, he's had good seasons playing in the Premier League, but I'm sure by his standards, he would agree that this one as well has been his best, scoring quite a lot of goals in the run to the end of the season. Although they started faltering, him and his team not really performing to their best, especially when they knew they had qualified for the Champions League. But he would be happy with his, contribution to that cause. And I'm sure he'll be looking forward to next season. Is he going to remain an Aston Villa player? Time will tell. Time will tell when the season starts. Okay, the next team we'll be looking at is Brentford. Brentford. And this one, from the research, the supporters player of the season is Ethan Pinnock. Ethan Pinnock is the supporters player of the season. So this is the one that the supporters have voted as their player of the season. So well done to him. He's had a good season. I remember the goal he scored against Chelsea. That's the main thing I can remember of his season. And he was vital to their defense until he got injured towards the end. But when he came back, you could tell he was back again, because they were very solid in defense. So yeah, good one for him this season. Then we'll look at Brighton. Brighton, the player of the season, has been voted as Pascal Gross. Pascal Gross. Brighton, they've had an up and down season, so no surprises there that it might have been difficult picking one standout player as the player who's, should be the player of the season. But Pascal Gross kind of edges it past any other player because he's had the most assists and he's featured in almost every game. So that's why I'm sure he has been voted as their player of the season. And then we'll go to Burnley. Burnley's player of the season is Sander Berge. I believe they bought him this season for the season just gone, and him winning player of the season, I'm sure he'll be happy with his return. Although the team was relegated, but he'll be happy with his own contribution to the team that he was, voted as the player of the season. So well done to Sander Berge. And then we move on to Chelsea. No surprises there. I'm sure you all know who should and who is the player of the season. And the player of the season for Chelsea is Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer. He is the player of the season for Chelsea. Well done to him. Very good season. Came from Man City and he has proven himself to be a Premier League player. And only time will tell if next season he carries on from where he stopped this season, because now they're having a new manager. They see how he's going to play, how he's going to fit into that team, and how he's going to be utilized to make sure that he bangs in the goals, creates the assist for whoever is in the realm. Okay, the next team we'll be looking at is Crystal Palace. And the player of the season has been voted as John-Philippe Mateta. He's had such a great season for Crystal Palace. I'm sure a season he would never forget. Came in, especially the second half of the season, scoring goals left, right, and center. So he will be happy with his return, and I'm sure that's why the fans have voted for him as their player of the season. Yes, we move on to the next team, Everton. Everton, despite all the deductions, have managed to stay in the Premier League, and they have voted Jordan Pickford as their player of the season. Jordan Pickford is the player of the season, and it's becoming embarrassing now for Everton. I realize when I'm looking back, he's won, if not the last three. Is there no other player stepping up to win anything in that team? How can your goalkeeper, no disrespect to the goalkeeper, but how can your goalkeeper for 4 seasons in a row be your player of the season? Anyway, Jordan Pickford is the player of the season, and rightly so, because he's racked up the numbers this season. And besides Raya, he was the keeper with the most clean sheets. So well done to Jordan Pickford. Then we look at Fulham. Fulham have voted João Palhinha as their player of the season. This is the second season in a row, and well done to him, because if everyone remember, at the start of the season he was almost on his way out, but the deal fell through, and that's why he stayed and put in his best and has come out with a good season to be voted the player of the season for a second time in a row. So João Palhinha is the player of the season for Fulham. And then we go to Liverpool. Liverpool have voted Mo Salah as their player of the season. That result has recently just come out, as he has, pipped Van Dijk and Alisson to that poll. So, no, not Alisson, McAllister to that poll. So yeah, well done to Mo Salah. I mean, he had a good first half of the season and then went for the AFCON, got injured, came back. I mean, it was okay, but not as good as he was at the start of the season, because if he was as good, they probably maybe would have been fighting even more for the Premier League, but that didn't happen. Okay, the next team we'll be looking at is Luton Town. Luton Town, remember, they were only just promoted, had a good, tough start to the season, tried to fight towards the middle, and then didn't have enough strength at the end. They ended up finishing, third bottom. So the player of the season voted by them is Ross Barkley. Ross Barkley is the player of the season for Luton Town. Well done to Ross. He's had a good season and would probably or definitely is on the move from Luton because he is a Premier League player. So he'll probably not go back to the Championship. So he'll probably, you'll probably see him. I know he's been linked with a few teams, so we'll probably see him again in the Premiership this season. Okay. Manchester United. Manchester United have voted, and their player of the season is Diogo Dalot. Diogo Dalot. Yeah, he's had a very good season, and he would be happy with that, with his contribution to the season, because he's even coming with a few nice goals, a few great performances in the game, great assists and all that. So well done to Diogo Dalot for winning the player of the season for Manchester United. And then we have Manchester City. Manchester City. And Man City's player of the season is Phil Foden. Phil Foden. He is the player of the season. So well done to Phil Foden as the player of the season. And then we move on to Newcastle. Newcastle. How were the lads? Yes, so Newcastle have voted Anthony Gordon as their player of the season. He's had a great season alongside Alexander Isak. I would have given it to Isak, but from what I've seen on the research, the player of the season has gone to Anthony Gordon. So well done to him. Well done to him. And then we have Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest. They had deductions as well, but they managed to stay up. Second to the last day of the season, that's when they secured that. So well done to them. They have voted Murillo, who was signed this season, as their player of the season. I think he's the player for Nottingham Forest who's had the most appearances all through the season. And if you look at that lad, he's such a big lad. Have you seen his feet? They're massive. They're massive. Reminds us of a Jack Grealish and all that. Yeah. So Murillo has won the player of the season for Nottingham Forest. And then we move on to Tottenham Hotspurs, and they have voted a player they signed this season as their player of the season in Mickey van der Ven. Mickey van der Ven. He's had a very, very good season, albeit that one game against Newcastle where he was turned left, right and center. But overall, he's been great. He's been great for them. Great defensively. You can tell when he's not there, their defense is a bit shaky, So well done to him. The fans have voted Mickey van der Ven as their player of the season. And then we have Sheffield United, another team that was relegated, and I would say they were poor. They were very poor, but they still had to vote for who was their player of the season, and they have voted Gustavo Hammer as their player of the season. Well done to him. He's had a good season as well. Personally, I think he was also bought this season. I'm not sure, but I think he was. So he'll be happy with that return. And who knows, another team might just snap him up. maybe not the Premier League, but he might be moving to a maybe slightly higher team than Sheffield at the moment. So well done to Gustavo Hammer, winning the Player of the Season for Sheffield United. Then West Ham have voted Jared Bowen as their Player of the Season. West Ham have voted Jared Bowen as their Player of the Season. Yeah, he's had a very good season as well. I mean, faded off towards the end, but the start of the season, he was banging in goals. In fact, there was one time where he was scoring in almost every game, so he would be happy that he has won that, and he has had a good season, and he has also been called up to the England squad. So that's a good, return for the season for him, I would say. That would have been his target. Play well, get a call up, play in the Euros, and it's all happening. Maybe what might have been missing is maybe try and win the Europa League that they were part of, but you never could tell. It's a very, very tough competition. So yeah. So the final team we'll look at is Wolverhampton Wanderers. And they have voted as their Player of the Season Mario Lemina. Well done to him. He has won the Player of the Season for Wolverhampton Wanderers. I remember he used to play for Fulham. Yeah, is it Fulham? Yes, I'm sure it's Fulham. And now moved to Wolves and has come out as Player of the Season for them. So he'll be looking forward to next season to give even more. So well done to everyone who has been voted as their Player of the Season. What are your thoughts, guys? I'm sure a few of you would probably have wanted to see someone else as the Player of the Season for your team. Man United fans, are you happy with Dalot? Arsenal fans, are you happy with Rice? Chelsea fans, I don't think you have any complaints about who it was. Liverpool, should Mo Salah have won? Man City, did you think Foden deserved it? Who else? Anyone, any team? Do you think your team, the player who has been mentioned, is the Player of the Season? Let us know in the comment section, guys, and we would all have a chat. All right, guys, that is so much we have for you today. It's been a pleasure, and I will see you in the next video. Don't forget the Euros is coming soon, and we are there. Don't go nowhere. See you later, guys. Bye for now.
Thanks for tuning in. Join us same time next week. Grand Football, for the love of the game.